guys, welcome back to the channel, Bean here, and today I'm bringing you the 10 most disappointing books that I read this year. Now this does include books that I DNF'd, so some of these I didn't make it all the way through, but whenever I DNF a book, I always make sure to give it at least 50 to 100 pages, depending on how long the book itself is. The only time I would ever go away from this number is if it says something right away that offends me to a point that I do not want to touch it ever again. And that has only happened once or twice, and it did not happen at all this year. So that's always good. Some of these books I did read all the way through as well, and I did give ratings. I won't be going too deep into the descriptions on these. Most of these books I also do not have anymore, so editing is going to take me a while anyways. Now, the way I'm going to go through this, I'm just going to say the book and the author and why I didn't like it. I might go into description, but probably not for all of them, because in all honesty, I've kind of pushed a lot of them out of my mind because I didn't enjoy them. Alright, the first book I'm going to talk about is no surprise to anyone, and it is It by Stephen King. So here's the thing about It, is that I read this book as a part of our fall reads readathon that we did in October, and due to that, one of the prompts was to read a book that was out of your comfort zone, and we struggled for a while to figure out what kind of book is out of my comfort zone because I read just about anything, and found this one. And so I got over 300 pages into this book and just couldn't do it. I was annoyed, I didn't care, and it hadn't even reached the main plot yet, so I was kind of over it. I have no desire to pick up another Stephen King novel. I apologize if that offends you. I know lots of people really like Stephen King. He's just not an author that I seem to be enjoying. And that's going to lead me into my next book that I'm going to talk about, which is Pet Seminary by Stephen King. This book, a guy buries a dead cat, and then the dead cat comes to life and starts killing things. I just was very underwhelmed. I really didn't enjoy this book either. I did get halfway through this one, so I read 250 pages of it or so, whatever it was. I did not enjoy it. Like I said, I will not be reading another Stephen King novel, I don't think, unless it's one of his short stories or novellas. Just not my thing. I learned this year. The next book I'm going to talk about is one that I believe has appeared on all three of our lists, and that is Fangirl by Rowell. We read this one for a book of the month earlier this summer, and honestly, I was just very underwhelmed by this story. Looking back on it now, I do believe I would have enjoyed it if I had read this in high school or early college, but since I read this at the age of 28, it just wasn't for me. I just wasn't enjoying it, and so this one had to end up on this list as well. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Raven's Tale by Kat Winters. Now, this is a story about Edgar Allan Poe and his muse, his muse comes to life as an actual being, and he rejects her. And honestly, I was just not enjoying the story. It didn't flow very nicely for me. It jumped around, and I did finish it, but I really just didn't enjoy this one much at all. One of the big disappointments for thrillers for me this year was The Winter Sister by Megan Collins. Now, this was a book that I got through Book of the Month, and it follows a girl whose sister is murdered, and honestly, none of the books surprised me. I was so underwhelmed. I did not enjoy the writing style. I did not enjoy reading about the characters. I just was left feeling very underwhelmed by this book and was really disappointed in that choice, unfortunately. The next book is one that I actually heard about on a podcast, and it is The Last by Hanna Jameson. Now, this is an apocalypse book that follows a group of people who are in a hotel and realize that they are probably the last people alive on our planet, and the rest of the world has been destroyed. And so what do? They decide to try and solve a murder while they're at this hotel. I don't know, it seemed a little strange to have a murder that you want to solve during the apocalypse. I was not getting into the characters. I did not like any of them. I kind of was okay with all of them dying, in all honesty, so yeah, I decided that wasn't really worth it. I got about 25% of the way through that book. The next one I'm going to talk about is actually one that I have been anticipating for a while, and that is Wild Beauty by Anna Marie McLemore. Now, this is a magical realism book, which I love magical realism. It is actually my favorite genre to read. And so reading this one, I was very disappointed because for me, the story was great. However, I despise the writing style. I am not a fan of flowery writing. And if you are, that's great. This book is very florally written. This book has very flowery writing. So you have been warned. And for me, her style is not something that I enjoy. The next one I'm going to talk about is Dear Killer by Katherine Ewell. This is a book that I actually borrowed from the library, and it follows a teenage girl who is actually a murderer. And she goes around, she gets letters from people about those in their life that they wished were dead, and she goes out and decides whether or not it's worth killing them. She has a P.O. box and all of this stuff just to murder some people, and it didn't fit. Like, the whole concept of the book was very interesting and unique to me. However, I didn't enjoy how it was presented, and her character was just not one that I really enjoyed reading about. She was not a fun character. Another book that left me a bit disappointed this year was The Merciful Crow by Margaret Owen. Now, this is probably going to be the most controversial book on my list, and the reason for that is people seem to either love it or hate it. I felt that this book just kind of glossed over things, and it just kind of said, yeah, this is what's happening, and I didn't think that the plot was too solid. I thought that the characters were well thought out. However, the story itself was predictable, and I didn't enjoy the predictability of it, unfortunately. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Unfortunately, this was one that I did not enjoy, and I don't think I will be continuing with this series. The last book that I'm going to talk about is The Au Pair by Emma Rous. But basically, from what I remember, this book follows a set of twins where one twin finds a picture that would have been taken right after her and her brother were born, but she is not in the picture. Only her brother is. And I thought it was just a lot of jumping to conclusions and not thinking things through. And I didn't finish it. I only got about a third of the way through, 100 some odd pages. And I just didn't care for the main character. I didn't care about her problem. It wasn't something that I thought was interesting. And so I ended up DNFing this one. So that's all I have for you guys here today. What kind of books did you guys read that disappointed you in the past year? I have decided that if I am disappointed by a book or if I'm not enjoying it, I'm just going to stop reading it, because I have realized that I have so many books on my shelf, on my TBR that I want to get to, that it's really not worth pushing myself through a book and ending up in a reading slump afterwards. And so I will be DNFing books. As you've seen, I did DNF about 5 this year, I believe. And so due to that, I will be continuing to do that next year because it did work for me. And that's all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe and hit the little bell icon if you want to be notified whenever we post new videos. Normally, we post Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, but since it is Bookmas, we are posting every day. And so it's going pretty well so far. I think we've kept up, which is awesome. And yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. We'll see you next time. Bye!